Welcome to the Practice Squad podcast, episode 18. I'm John. I'm joined by my co-host Mark, and we're coming off some Thanksgiving football. One of my favorite weekends because pretty much the only day that entire week that we don't get like good quality football to watch is Friday, which they're actually changing that next year.
You got the high school state championships going on Friday.
That's true.
So I wouldn't say it depends if you're watching it, but yeah, it's a loaded weekend of football. One of the better football weekends of the year. But yeah, I just loved it, man. I watched football like 5 straight days and just kind of take it all in.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, as a Michigan fan, really good coming off of the game. Dominant win in Columbus, most dominant win they've had in about 40 years in our lifetimes. So that was fantastic. Also, Mark, we have a very special guest today. Do you want to go ahead and introduce him?
Yeah, excited to have Tyler Conklin on, currently with the New York Jets. He was my teammate at Central Michigan. And this guy has an unbelievable story. He's an unbelievable guy just all around, and he's a hell of a player. And we're excited to have him on. So we'll bring Tyler on here and ask him some questions.
Tyler, how you doing, bud?
Man, what an intro. I'm good, man. Thanks for having me today or tonight.
Of course. I'm loving the look, too. The beard's wicked.
Ooh, beard's long right now.
What?
Fiance's been yelling at me about trimming it up a little bit. So I probably
Is it tough to see with the helmet and the visor and everything?
No, it ain't bad. But it is getting pretty long. I don't really notice it till I look at like a camera or something. Like, holy shit.
Will you do some kind of playoff beard, because the Jets are right there, kind of clawing their way in, looking like they could be a playoff team? Is there anything you'll do,
I haven't cut my beard in this is probably the longest I've gone, probably like a year, a little over a year. So I probably just won't touch it.
You can't mess with the juju, right?
I don't know what I would look like without it. It's like a 5-inch extension to my face, so I just feel like it would take everybody too long to realize. Everybody just think I look funny for too long for me to deal with that. I have to deal with everybody making fun of me and shit. Can't do that.
John has that same problem with his facial hair. Mine's not as extreme, but John used to have some wicked facial hair, and every time he shaved it, he looked like he's 10 years younger.
Yeah, I'd get bullied by everybody too, so
I'm not trying to hear it anymore. Yeah, I'm not trying
we have a picture too, if people want to see without the facial hair, way back, you high school hooping, to kind of start your we'll start at the beginning of your story, man. Like, this is the state finals. Basketball was your first kind of thing, right? Like, that's what you thought you were going to be. You were a hell of a basketball player in high school, went to play at Northwood in college, which is actually where John went to school.
Go Timberwolves.
Walked on, for those that don't know Tyler's story, I'll let him kind of tell it, but he walked on at Central, and the rest is history, man. Earned a scholarship, became one of the best players CMU's had, and he's now playing in the league.
Before we move to that story, we just got to show, first of all, the glow up.
The beard, man.
Second of all, the comparison, right? That's pretty much the vibe we got going on here.
The amount of Jason Momoa, Aquaman, Khal Drogo, whatever he plays, compared to people, it's nonstop. I'll be on vacation. People are like, "We just tell my kid you're Aquaman." I'm like, I feel bad lying to your 5-year-old about being Aquaman.
Does that ever get old? The Aquaman comparison is just like,
there's a lot worse people I could be compared to, so I'll take it.
Okay, yeah.
It could be a lot worse. It's never ending, but it's not a bad comparison.
Yeah.
So it could definitely be a lot worse.
There's definitely worse things, but if you want to talk,
whenever people ask, I always show people that picture whenever they ask me, what do you look like without a beard or without hair, blah blah blah, and I'm like, well, this isn't gonna look like me, but this is way back then when I thought basketball was when I had hoop dreams still. So in high school we weren't very good at football. Going into my senior year, I want to say we were 0-27. Varsity was 0-27 going to my senior year. I went to Mass Cruz North. In basketball, we were pretty good. They were always a decent basketball program. We're in the MAC Red. But our class kind of, we went farther than any team win in Macomb County history up to that point in 2013. We made it to the Final Four and lost in the Breslin to Saginaw. Going to my senior year, we were top 5 team in the state. I was like a top 25 player in the state. We had a pretty talented 2013 class that was led by James Young. I'm pretty sure it was number 1 Michigan at that time. But there's a lot of good basketball players. E.C. Matthews, Wes Clark, just a lot of talent in that class. And basketball just always what I love to do. We ended up getting a new football coach though my senior year, and we went 8-3, hosted and won our first ever playoff game. I'll never forget. He came in. We had our little meeting in the fall, and he was like, we're gonna host our first playoff game this year, and everybody's like, yeah, right, dude. We haven't won a game in 3 years. And shit, a couple months later, we won and hosted our first playoff game. We beat Romeo in the first round of the playoffs and ended up losing to Dakota in the district finals. So we ended up 8-3 or whatever it ended up being. And I started getting recruited a little bit by some MAC schools, a couple Big Ten schools, really Illinois for the most part. And Northwood offered me right after we lost in Breslin my junior year. And, around that time after football season, I was kind of interested in trying to, those big schools looking at me. So I thought it was awesome. Like, Illinois, I'm like, no way. And I told Northwood I was going to kind of look at some other schools and maybe pursue football a little bit. And they gave me the whole, if you don't sign, then we might pull your scholarship, blah, blah, blah.
Such a tough thing for kids to go through, man.
Yeah, just like being
Put
the
the
first
pressure
person
on
in my
an
family.
18-year-old kid, yeah.
Yeah, free school. Like, I'm the first person in my family to have a college, offer. So I ended up signing early signing period. I signed to Northwood before I even played my senior year of basketball. And, I was kind of waiting on a couple mid-majors, UAD, Oakland, Eastern to offer me, but they're kind of waiting on some guys to not get in academically and whatnot. And I'm like, whatever, I'll just go to Northwood. I'll be their number one recruit. I'll, have a good Division II career and go play overseas. And that was like my whole plan. I'm gonna go ball at Northwood, go overseas, and I had it all figured out. I thought, the money doesn't get taxed over there. I just thought I knew everything, but I knew nothing. And so I get to Northwood. I go up there John knows, obviously, Northwood's a private school, D2. There's like 2,000 people that go there, so about the same
super
size.
Tiny school.
Yeah, about the same size
campus.
as my high school. Went up there for summer classes, and I was up there for summer class. I was miserable. I'm like, no way. Like, well, I'm not going to do this. But everybody's like, oh, you're homesick. And I ended up coming back for the rest of the summer after I took a class. And once I got back up there, I don't know, just like I kind of sold myself short. I always told my parents I was going to be the first Division I athlete in our family. And I didn't do that. And I was looking to transfer to maybe a different school for basketball. And kind of going through that, I was at B-Dubs one time, Buffalo Wild Wings, watching Michigan State play. And I don't remember who they were playing exactly, but the tight end I was playing for Michigan State was Josiah Price. And I think he had a touchdown, like a stick nod that game or something. Because that's, I think, where all his touchdowns came on when he was there. But, I saw that. I'm like, man, I can do that. Like, if he can do that, I can do that. I don't know what made me think that, but, I thought that. And, when I was at Northwood, I went in there and I asked for my release, which was one of the harder things I've had to do. That was a terrible conversation. And went home for winter break. And I was talking to Central, Michigan State, and then possibly Wayne State. And I was going to go to Michigan State. My girlfriend at the time went there, so it's probably a good part of the reason I wanted to go there, being a stupid kid. And I didn't have a college math class at the time. I took like Algebra 2 year 1, Algebra 2 year 2 when I was in high school. And I had to take like a beginner's class when I got to Northwood. It was, I don't remember what did you take like the first math class when you were at Northwood? It was like stages, like you had to like pass each like section.
Yes. Well, I went on and had to take a bunch of calculus and stuff.
So you're
like
probably a
that
lot
too.
smarter
No
than
fun.
me. So I mean, but I had to take like the beginner math class like at Northwood before I could even like take a different math class or like move on. And I didn't ever go to class. I'm like, I gotta get the hell out of here. Like, there's no way I'm passing this. Like, I gotta go. Like, there's no way I would ever pass finance and stuff. I don't know what I was thinking. I didn't know if I wanted to go into business. And North was a business only school. And so we end up talking to those schools, and I couldn't get into Michigan State. And then I actually took and went and did a tryout at Siena Heights. My buddy was the quarterback there. And I'm like, I'm going to go to Siena Heights. I'll play basketball and football. I'll dominate, and it'd be fun, Like, I was just kind of looking for an easy way out probably at the time. And I go up there, and I do a whole workout, and they offer me. And I kind of skipped the part. But this is after I walked on to Central. And I was during spring ball, I was playing receiver the first 4 weeks, and they moved me to to DN the last week of spring ball. And I was like 200 pounds. And I've never played defense in my life, really. And I'm like, what did I do? I just left a full ride scholarship at Northwood. My parents and grandparents were freaking out about it, like leaving free school, walking on, moving up, changing sports. And then they moved me to DN. And I'm like, dang, I might have really blew this one. And I I went home for that summer and worked construction at Rams Construction with my buddy. And then I was like, I'm leaving. Like, I'm not playing DN. So I went to this Sienna workout. They offered me. And I ended up calling Coach Rickham that day. Like, and Coach Rickham called me like, hey, we just got transfer release papers. What's going on? And I'm like, I was a little tipsy. I was on the golf course drinking some Bud Lights all day, or some Busch Lights, some dirty water. And I'm like, oh crap, what do I do? And I asked him right there. I'm like, oh, I don't know, I don't really know what that's about, but I would love to move to tight end. I mean, they very could easily say at that time, like, we don't want to move you or whatever. And they ended up moving me. And so I went in the fall at tight end with Coach Shromore as the Michigan guy for you Michigan.
He's now the OC at Michigan, John.
Now the OC at Michigan. And, I was like the seven tight ends behind, we had 2 seniors and Deion Butler, Mike Kimville were good players. Ben McCord was a junior who was a good player. Zach Crouch was in my class, another tight end they brought in. And then 2 freshmen, John Carson and Clay Walderzak. And then I was the last guy, and that's kind of when the journey began of, putting on weight from graduating high school at 185 pounds. I probably got to Central at about 200 pounds and receiver for about 4 weeks and DM for a week and almost ended up at Sienna. And then, bam, they moved me to tight end, and then the work really began, I guess. So
it was a crazy thing to see in just the development that you had from being like what you were as a basketball player to then basically just kind of recreating the athlete you wanted to be as a football player, man. Like what and this, people talk about it all the time, of the basketball to football, especially receivers and tight ends, that comparison, right? I mean, you talk about crossovers and all of the stuff that you do and the little details of what makes tight ends your size so great. It's that you can move like that at your size. Talk a little bit about like how basketball prepared you for that, and why you think maybe still this day some of the creativity you have getting open at your size came from your roots back as a hooper.
Yeah, 100%. There's a couple of things for me that translate. I know everybody wants to talk about, high pointing the ball, and I think that's something that does. I think really it's the fluidity of basketball, right? Like the reaction, whether it's defensively, offensively, grabbing rebounds, just the fluidity of things can really help. And then I think ball handling and crossovers and stuff, I think that definitely helps when it comes to releases and top of the routes at times. And, as I've kind of developed as a route runner over the years and working with different coaches and really trying to hone in on my craft, it's definitely something I've seen come out more and more, because I could just think it's something I could think about handling a basketball while I'm doing my releases, or I could start picturing that more and helping myself get more creative, whether it's at the top of the route or off the line of scrimmage. So I definitely think high pointing the ball is a big thing, and then breaking points and releases, especially releases and ball handling, I think go hand in hand, especially for me being a big guard. I think it probably helps less when you're a big man or something, but me being a guard most of my career, or all of my basketball career, I think it really translated for me.
What about the blocking component of being a tight end and stuff like that? Was that something that took a little bit longer to kind of, get the hang of and kind of figure out how to be physical like that? Or do you feel like there was still some attachments from basketball that kind of set you up for success there?
Yeah, I think for me, when it comes to blocking, I think a lot of blocking is just mindset. I mean, I was really blessed when I first moved over to tight end, having Coach Moore as my tight end coach, right? He was a former offensive lineman. He was, I'm pretty sure he played guard at Oklahoma when Adrian Peterson was there. And, he was just an unbelievable coach. I definitely wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for him. And just his the way he was as a mentor, but also just how much he cared about helping you get better. And he was so good at caring about route running as a former offensive line guy. Usually those guys, when they come and coach tight end, like all they care about is blocking. They don't really care about how you run routes. He was big on both. And I think my developing the run game definitely wouldn't be what it is today if it wasn't for him, like that early in my career, just basic stuff. I mean, you see guys go to the combine and they struggle to get in a decent looking 3-point stance. That's all stuff I never had to worry about, because I had a guy that really taught me the fundamentals from the get-go. And as I got into the league, it really just becomes more of a effort thing. Obviously, there's the technique, but a lot of it's effort. And as you get older, just understand the scheme. Where's the ball carrier going? What's the goal of this play? And how is it going to help you? So.
So what's the biggest adjustment that you had? Like, I mean, obviously you were well coached at Central and it prepared you with which Coach Moore and a lot of other really great coaches at Central. But the biggest adjustment from getting drafted, going to Minnesota, right? And I mean, you had Kyle Rudolph ahead of you for a few years, and you kind of had to work your way into a bigger role and just signed a bigger contract with the Jets, and your role just continues to increase. It seems like each year you're in the league. But what was that first like big obstacle that you had to go through as a professional? Right, that was kind of different than anything you've seen. And obviously, you already overcame a ton of obstacles, but just more kept getting thrown at you. What was that first one in the NFL, and how did you overcome that?
There's just a lot of politics, right? There's a lot of politics at every level. Like when you get to college, there's a lot of politics. When you get to the pros, there's even more politics, right? But being a walk-on really helped prepare me for everything I had to deal with in the NFL for the most part. Like I knew how to make something out of a little opportunity. I know how to deal with not getting the opportunities that you feel you deserve, or the opportunities that, or just, when you only have one opportunity, like being able to have that pressure on you, like I have to make the most of this opportunity and being able to do it. Being a walk-on really prepared me for all that. So when I got to the NFL as a fifth round pick, I was excited. I didn't know it was going to be as political as it was, but it makes sense once you think about it. Guys are getting paid a lot of money. Guys are getting drafted high, and there's, people's, jobs on the line at all times. And my first 2 years, I used to get frustrated. I mean, I used to call my agent all the time, hey, I got to be able to get out of here so I can, try to get a role somewhere and get to another contract. I used to complain to my girlfriend at the time, but now fiance. It was tough. And then, my third year, I was in the same spot. My second year, I was special teams. I played 10 to 20 plays a game. I was always active, which I didn't realize how much of a blessing that was at the time when I go and watch a lot of guys that, aren't active and whatnot throughout a long period of time in their career. My third year, though, I was frustrated. I'm like, man, I'm almost in my fourth year. That's contract year, and I still haven't got a chance to play. And, like halfway through, I'm like, whatever. Like, I'm just going to just worry about scout team, because sometimes on scout team, I got to play receiver if they had a big receiver that week. And I just started dominating on scout team. And, then eventually, however, it worked out. Kyle or Irv Smith got banged up a little bit, and Kyle Rudolph got banged. And it was me and Kyle playing. I got my first chance to really play like significant time. It was like week 8 against Chicago on Monday night. And I got my first target, first catch of the season. And then Irv ended up coming back. And I'm like, crap, now I'm back in the same spot I was. Then Kyle got banged up like the last 4 games. So it was me and Irv the last 4 games together. And I was thinking I really wasn't going to get much of an opportunity, because it's really going to be a chance for them to play Irv, which is what they wanted to do, since they drafted him in the second round. But it ended up working out, and I ended up finishing with like 19 catches for 190 yards and a touchdown, and, kind of really set myself up by playing a lot in those last 4 games and slowly, easing myself into being more comfortable in this league to go into what happened my, getting the opportunity to start my 4th year. So, everything for me is just the stars have always aligned. I don't know, what you want to amount that to, but for me, I just feel like if you, handle your business and do what you're supposed to do, it all works out. So, everything's happened how it's supposed to for me so far.
For sure. And then, you're making this jump to a Jets team that looks brand new, right? Like the Jets haven't looked like this in a very, very long time. How does it feel to kind of be, meshing with those new guys? Everybody's kind of finding their identity. It's a super young team and you guys are winning. What's that been like?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I didn't really know what to expect, only being in Minnesota for 4 years, and that's all I knew, right? And like in Minnesota, when I got my chance to start my 4th year, like I feel like I was starting because someone got hurt, so I had to do things the right way, right? I had to run routes the way they needed me to run routes. I had to be able to have the trust of the coaches to feel comfortable to give me the ball. I had to have Kirk trust me. And as a guy that wasn't pegged to be the starter, I feel like I had to really overly do what I was supposed to do, which sometimes didn't allow me to play, I guess, the way I wanted to play. So coming here, I was really excited to have a good year under my belt and come here and really try to evolve and become who I want to become. And, so far it's been an awesome opportunity. I love the offense that I'm playing in. Obviously we're a young group on offense with a lot of young receivers, young quarterback, and we've had a lot of movement at quarterback, as everybody knows. But, we've been banged up in different spots on the O-line and whatnot. But I really think we're finding ourselves as an offense. I think we're really kind of creating that identity that we want to have, and I'm excited to see kind of where this offense can take itself in the last couple, the last 7 weeks and going into the playoffs.
Everybody talks about the Jets defense, and obviously they've been good all year, and the offense has had some ups and downs. But one thing's for sure, it looks like a different Jets team overall than everyone's used to seeing the last few 20, 25 years. But talk a little bit about kind of being able to kind of fit yourself in this new role and kind of almost like a new confidence that you have with this Jets team. And it looks like you guys have fun when you're playing, man. Like you guys just played in the rain. I mean, I watched that game against Chicago this weekend. You guys just looked like you were enjoying it, like just kind of the celebrations, the way you guys were just kind of carrying yourself. I mean, you guys were blocking and just taking control of people out in space like several times. I mean, I noticed you just kicking a guy all the way to the sideline and just almost smiling while you do it. Talk about a little bit, just it looks like you're playing with that confidence you mentioned and kind of where that's coming from. Why do you guys feel like you can play like that and just continue to do it every single week?
Yeah, Sunday was a fun game though. I mean, like when you have to go out there and play and it's cold, it's rainy, and you're like, oh shit, it's stressful catching the ball. I'm out there with no gloves that's the first time I haven't worn gloves in an NFL game in my life. But we do have fun together. We have a young, compared to Minnesota, we're a lot younger team here. And, in the locker room, you can kind of feel it. We all around the same age. We get along. We have fun together. Not that we did it in Minnesota, but it's just different because we're, a lot of us are around the same age. And we're all trying to, whether it's, Elijah Moore in his second year, Garrett Wilson being a rookie, Mike Carter being in his second year, Zach being in his second year, Mike White being in, going in year 5 like me. A lot of us are getting our first opportunities or, really young in this league, and we're trying to prove who we are as players and along with helping this team win. I think we're all just having a lot of fun trying to become who we want to be as individuals. And at the end of the day, that's going to help us be a successful offense. And I think that's one of the reasons we have so much fun is because we're out there trying to prove, how good of an offense we are, but also make names for ourselves as individuals. And we all care about each other, right? We all have fun doing it. We have fun in practice. I know it's a very competitive team, and we do have a lot of fun out there. But Sunday was extra fun. I don't know if it was the right.
Definitely shows. Fun. Yeah, I mean, I just saw so many different times where they'd show like a replay, and you're either making a catch or even if it wasn't you in on the play, like everybody just seemed to be having a good time, like no matter what. I mean, it was awesome to see. It just looked like almost like little kids, but grown men playing football the way it's supposed to be played.
That's what it felt like on Sunday.
Yeah, and that's awesome because you don't see that all the time in the NFL, right? So many times it's you just kind of see guys doing their job, right? But I mean, this whole team, especially Tyler, looked like they were enjoying it and just kind of taking in the moment, man, and just embracing what it was. It was a shitty day, rain, a little bit of snow, cold weather, but like you guys just seemed to make the most of it and came out on top. And that leads into this week. It's a unique week for you, right? I mean, you guys are preparing for Minnesota, and that's got to be a weird feeling for you. Talk a little bit about, do you approach it differently? Do you kind of just take it as it is? Is it going to be weird for you playing some of those guys I'm sure you have pretty good relationships with? Or how does that feel? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, I don't approach it any differently. I'm very routine oriented, so like I'll do the same thing I do every week. But it is going to be weird. I mean, me, Scotty, my fiance, and then one of my best friends lives with me in Minnesota for most of the time out there. And I mean, we still talk about to this day about how we love Minnesota and we just enjoyed, living there. I mean, I went from being basically a college student to, really growing up there, buying my first house, figuring out how to be a pro, going from tight end 3 special teams player to a starting tight end in this league. And, we have the places that we love going to, our favorite restaurants, our favorite spots. It's definitely going to be nostalgic and weird being back. I loved US Bank. I had a good relationship with like a lot of the fans. I still talk to a lot of the fans randomly, whether it's Twitter or Instagram, just people that I randomly answer throughout the years and still answer to this day. So it's gonna be weird, but I'm super excited to go back, and I think it's gonna be a good day for the Jets, and I obviously want to have a big one. So we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah. We'll definitely be watching and hope to see. Definitely, you have a big day, but it should be a good game too. 2 really good teams that I think expectations have already been defeated by both these teams, and it's awesome to see these 2 teams meet, and obviously pretty cool for you and a special. Every game's special, but it's just,
this one is gonna be a little extra special for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Is there a player, Tyler, too, like that stands out that you've either played with or against in your pro career that just is just significantly different than everybody else? I mean, just someone that stands out, like first one that comes to mind of someone you've gone against, someone you've tried to block, someone that's just
the first person that kind of comes to mind when it like people I've played against that can make for a long day is I always tell people Randy Gregory. Like last year against Dallas, Randy Gregory, he was just someone that he just never took a play. I know a lot of these, star DNs, like if it's not a pass rush down or they don't think they can get a sack or, you didn't piss them off too bad, like they might just be sitting there on the line of scrimmage. You just don't know. But with him, he was just nonstop, 100 miles per hour, trying to hit you as hard as he could every single play. Backside of a run, front side of a run, field goal block, just whatever it was. Like his motor and just how hard he played, how physically he played. And then obviously he has like a talent. He's a tall, lankier guy with a lot of juice, but he also could, play really physical. And he was definitely someone that just always sticks out to me when I think about like tough matchups I've had. It's kind of a random game, I feel like.
It's a tough ask to block that guy, man, consistently through the course of the game, Yeah,
it's a tough ass to block a lot of these DNs, not going to lie to you, but it's fun when you get it done, though.
Is there a guy that in the pass game that has just been really tough to get open against, or is just really good at, press jam and just that you've struggled trying to get off the press, or is there anybody that comes to mind that, that you can think of?
Man, I haven't been matched up in too many like man-to-man opportunities where, I've had a hard time. Honestly, because obviously I go against my guys a lot like with camp and whatnot. But Michael Carter, the second, number 30, our nickel, he's one of the better coverage guys I played against. He's just super patient, and for me, that's everything, right? A lot of guys bite on stuff, and that's. If you go and watch a lot of my releases, like I get people off the line all the time because they're just not disciplined with their eyes, or they lack patience. But with him, like he's patient, he's disciplined, and he's tough to win against sometimes.
Yeah. What has made Sauce so dominant in his rookie year? Like, what is that dude doing that just makes it like it just clicked for him? Like instantly in the league is just crushing it, locking down just about everybody. It's super fun to watch.
He's looked really good.
Yeah, I think obviously it's, he's a special talent, but I think a lot of people would probably agree is in this league, it's all about confidence, right? Like, like when you leave high school and you go to college and you go back and watch a high school game, you're like, wow, man, I feel like I shouldn't have got tackled, right? Or like I should have dominated way more. Then like I kind of look at college now and I'm like, how did I not dominate more than I dominated? And I feel like it's a confidence thing, right? In this league, like once you can do whatever you want in practice, but until you go out there and start making plays in games and proving to yourself that you are who you are, I think that's the biggest thing. Like when you create that true confidence that you're that guy, I think you can really take your game to the next level. And I think Sauce just has that genuine belief in himself that he is that guy, and he's proved it so far in these first 11 games. So.
He's looked awesome. There's been so many, like you said, so many young guys that have surprised people. A lot of guys like yourself, right, and kind of a new role with just a kind of a grown role that have exceeded expectations and then some. And as a team, I mean, exceeding expectations and then some. The Jets are definitely probably one of the bigger surprise teams of the year and continue to kind of turn heads every week, which is awesome to see. It's awesome to see the Jets, back. Competing and winning games and being relevant. It's awesome to see. And it's so cool that it's your first year there. Yeah. Who would have thought, right? First year there going in and all of a sudden, the Jets are back, relevant to like, that's what New York Jets football is supposed to be. It's what it was for a long time. That's awesome, man. Is there, so your head coach is, also a Dearborn native from Michigan. Has there been ever conversations about like spots you used to like hitting up, food spots or anything like around here that you guys have in common? He was also a CMU guy for a short while early in his coaching career. Has those conversations ever happened?
I haven't talked to him a ton about it. I mean, here and there, but and then Coach LaFleur, obviously being a Mount Pleasant guy, growing up in Mount Pleasant, we talk a lot about Central and just the spots and whatnot. So. There's a lot of Michigan connects on this team, but I haven't talked to Coach Sala about too much of that stuff yet. But we've all been pretty locked in. So I'm sure next offseason, now that we're all getting settled in and comfortable, a lot more of those conversations will take place.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a lot of energy, and he definitely has turned things around super quick over there. Well, we really appreciate you coming on, Tyler. This was super awesome. I really hope you guys, continue to crush it the rest of the season, and make a strong push in the playoffs as well. I think this is definitely a different Jets team.
100%. I appreciate you guys having me today, man.
Yeah, it was awesome, man. You're an awesome guest. You had all kinds of cool stories, man. I think people are gonna like listening to your story, especially because you've just overcome so much and you continue to prove it, man. It's an inspiration to people. I remember when I got to Central, I looked up to you because you were exactly what I wanted to be, and I reached heights that I never would have gotten, without looking up to guys like you. So awesome to have you on the show, man.
There. When I got to Central, there was guys like Justin Schroeke was a walk-on. And I would like look for like hope in people, right? Like Justin Schroeke was a walk-on. He started for 3-4 years, whatever. Brian Anderson was a walk-on receiver before our time who, had a really good career. And I used to look for hope in those guys. Like, damn, there is a chance, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes that's just all you need. So, I was in that same spot at one time too. So I appreciate those words.
Yeah, man. We love having you on. We'll have to have you on again sometime soon. Maybe during the Jets playoff.
After a playoff win or something.
Yeah.
Let's go. Awesome, absolutely.
Man. Thanks again, Tyler.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Talk soon.
You too.
Good one.
Peace.
Mark, I just gotta say, like, you're becoming a professional at this shit, straight up. Like, like 6 months ago, you're like, oh, let's try out this podcast thing. Let's see what's up. And like, you sound like a news anchor now. So you're just crushing that on those interviews. Couldn't have done better.
I just learned from you and, your podcasting experience. I've just pulled from it. But, in all seriousness, man, this is just, it continues to get more and more fun to make episodes with Jon and have people like Tyler on, like, awesome. And when I'm saying stuff about these guys that we bring on, Jon, like, I know you see it, right? But like, I hope the people that are listening see it as well. Like, I'm not just saying these kind words about him because he's on the show or because, I have a history of a relationship with him as a teammate. Like, he really is a good dude. Just as good of a dude as he is as a player. And he's one of those guys that at Central, when I got there, he was the man. Right. I didn't see necessarily the early stages of him overcoming the walk-on adversity and the switching positions and everything you heard about. But when I got there, he was the guy. And he never acted too big. I walked in, I was a nobody. Most coaches didn't even know my name. And Tyler was one of those people that if there was a workout, I got a text about it from him or from one of the other guys. And he was giving me tips on releases and, how to run this route. And, hey, coach likes it when you do this. Like, he was doing that to someone that he didn't even know yet. And this was a guy that was very clearly going to have an NFL opportunity. He didn't care about that. He just wanted to make the guys around him better. And like I said, he was a true inspiration to me and a lot of other people. And like he said, there was inspiration ahead of him. And you talk a lot about the Central Michigan connection to the NFL. I think some of that does stem from stuff like this. And Tyler,
that culture goes such a long way. Absolutely. Yeah. And I love the fact that we get an opportunity, kind of namesake to a degree, to take all these guys' stories who, they're walk-ons, right? They're transferring and they're, all of these things that, probably just gets kind of washed out once they actually make it. People forget. And it's cool that we just get to hear like, like grassroots, these guys all had to grind their way, take a lot of risks, take a lot of chances, end up on a practice squad, but they get there and they end up making it. And it's phenomenal that we get to amplify those stories.
In a weird way too, Jon, like, and, he talked about how when, you're overcoming the adversity of, entering the NFL, how being a walk-on prepared him for that. In a weird way, you see like some of these 4 or 5-star guys that struggle with adversity, right? They don't get the starting spot their first year at Alabama, they transfer, or, guys get to the NFL. They've been like Josh Rosen's of the world. I hate to, drop his name in a negative way, but Josh Rosen came into the league. Well, he was a 4 or 5-star guy his whole life. Right. Played at UCLA, and it didn't work out for him in the NFL. He didn't. I don't know. I don't think he really handled the adversity that well. I don't know if he was necessarily built for that. But guys like Tyler Conklin, who kind of got shit on their whole life and was always pushed away, and just kept fighting. He was made for that moment. He was made for a challenge, and he got to Minnesota. It wasn't easy, being a 3rd, 4th string tight end, and having to kind of work through some really good players to even get on the field. And then now he just signed a pretty big contract in New York. He starts for them. I mean, he's up there, and I think he's like tight end 10 or 9 in terms of like fantasy football and targets and anything statistically.
I didn't want to be weird and tell him that I picked him up on waivers a few weeks ago in a pinch, but like I did.
I'm sure he would have gave you a shout out and said, "I'll do my best this weekend."
Yeah, well, and Garrett Wilson too, right? Because I told you, like, man, there was one fantasy draft where I did nothing but take chances on rookies because like all the guys I
And
wanted
you've been
were
right
gone.
about you've been right
Yeah,
about most
Pickens,
of them.
Wilson, they panned
Yeah.
out great, right?
You
I
have been
mean,
right about
they're in
those rookie
rotation.
receivers. And when our fantasy episode we did earlier in the offseason before the season had even started, you talked about that. And I kind of like was like, yeah, I mean they could be, but you were like Olave and Watson and all these guys that are coming in. You were right, dude. I mean, all of them are definitely making a name for themselves, and we haven't even begun to see what Jameson Williams can do in Detroit,
I'm
who's
so
another guy that's
excited. I
he's
mean,
rumored to
man,
be coming
you
back
see him
soon.
those like warm up routes that he was running. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, he did not
he
lose his speed to this
Oh
ACL
yeah,
there. That's for sure.
it's one of the better receiver classes. I mean, we've been really lucky to see some of the receiver classes we've got. I mean, Jamar Chase's year, then you have Justin Jefferson, and then you have this past year with Olave and Garrett Wilson and all these guys. And the future's right. I mean, look at Ohio State's receiving core right now. They have two guys that are going to be probably top 15 picks. You have some really good talent coming out as well, but. I'd like to get into some college football, John, to start the show for a little change
Of
up.
course. Hey, look, I started off at the beginning of the episode, right? I, as a Michigan fan, have waited my whole life for literally my entire life because
Clearly,
look, Michigan
it's never
won.
happened, right?
Right, Michigan won the national title in 1998. Right, that was the year I was born, and I grew up listening to my dad saying, this Michigan team, back when I was your age, blah 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 blah, they were sick, and I never like fully saw it, and now it's like, holy shit, dude, we just went to Ohio State and embarrassed them in front of their home crowd in that second half. And like, I'll say it, dude, I texted you probably midway through the third quarter. I was like, look, I get the game's close right now, but Michigan's playing confident and Ohio State's playing scared, right? They look nervous. They looked uncomfortable. And
it was
the dam
awesome.
burst, right? And then it was just,
dude.
they cannot, the defense couldn't adjust for anything, right? I mean, Edwards, Jones, crazy.
I was surprised. I know that I know you picked Michigan going into the game. I thought Ohio State would win the game. That was just kind of my thought. I sure as hell didn't expect what I saw happen. Right. I mean, I thought maybe Michigan sneaks one. Get lucky here or there, makes a couple more plays. Dude, they dominated right at the point where you need to dominate. And it felt like you said, they were chipping away. They were chipping away. Ohio State was still kind of looking like they could run away with it. And then halftime adjustments. Ohio State kind of a little bit of a cocky move. They didn't make many adjustments, especially on defense, and they were giving up big plays, and they were asking guys in space to do things that maybe they weren't ready to do. And clearly, matchup wise, it wasn't the right call. And I mean, they brought that defensive coordinator in for this game. I mean, because of what happened last year, and Michigan beat them in the passing game, and then once the passing game started to go away, they went right back to their roots and went to the running game with Donovan Edwards. And it's like just every time you thought that this is a chance for Ohio State to get off the field and get the ball back and go and answer, Michigan had another thing coming, and it just was awesome to see if you're a Michigan fan.
Well, and I got two things I got to say with relation to that, right? Like, like you said, like their defensive game plan was load the box, right? And that's a challenge, especially because of the fact that Edwards has a broken hand and Corum's out, right? Which is, everybody knows Michigan prides themselves in their run game. And the fact that McCarthy, a freshman, was able to adjust and be like, all right, we're a freaking air raid team for this first half. Whatever's got to happen for us to get points on the board. It's exactly what happened. And then once Ohio State couldn't figure out how to adjust, it was over. And it was funny because you see all these OSU fans being like, oh, like it wasn't a blowout. You guys got all those touchdowns in garbage time. I'm like, does garbage time start halfway through the third quarter? Like, stop it.
Man, it just felt like, and I don't know what you think, but I mean, I watched the entire game. I'm sure you did as well. It just felt like from before the game, from pregame to even today, stuff I'm seeing, JJ McCarthy grew up in front of 17 million people is what it felt like I watched. Right, 17 million people watched this game. It was a record-setting audience in terms of TV and all that stuff. It felt like that kid grew up.
I watched his nerves go away and settle into the game as the game progressed because, like, he's had a bad habit throughout the season of kind of like overthrowing balls when he gets a little excited, and that's kind of what was happening in that first quarter. And then, like, you just saw, like, he just rose to the occasion. He's like, I got to connect with these passes because they're there. And from that point on, it was just like, all right, Like, let's go.
It was really exciting to see. And then obviously Donovan Edwards, who my brother played against in high school like 3 times, and it was always a challenge for him. And he, when Donovan went to Michigan, committed to Michigan, I mean, my brother Anthony was like, yeah, I mean, that's going to be like a Heisman candidate one day. He's that good. I was like, come on, really? He's like, yeah, he's that good. And I think you're starting to see kind of the passing of the torch from Corum to Edwards of what the future of Michigan football looks like, which is actually the now too, which is awesome to see. And they're playing for Big Ten championship. I'd love to talk about some of the championship games coming up this weekend and in college, and kind of the playoff.
How do we feel about this playoff picture, right? So that just got released, about an hour before we started recording here.
Yep.
Georgia, Michigan, TCU, USC, and then at 5 we have Ohio State, 6 we have Bama. I think Bama with it being a 2-loss team, I think that's crazy that they're 6.
Ohio State fans would lose their mind if something happens where, and here's my thought process, right? If TCU loses and has 1 loss, they're not getting in. So that is a ticket for Ohio State to jump in, right? The same goes for USC. I think if USC loses, I think that they're out, right? So what are the odds that TCU and USC both lose? I wouldn't say it's high, but that if one of them lose, we could see Ohio State get right back in. Then you want to start talking about the numbers and how you switch up. There was a lot of debate that Michigan should be the 1.
Right.
And if Michigan were the 1, if something happens, if they look just amazing and Georgia, for whatever reason, either loses or doesn't play LSU like people expect, Michigan could very well be the 1 and Ohio could be the 4. And we could see a rematch, which I would love to see it. I don't know how you feel.
Equally as possible, right? You get Ohio squeaking in at 4, Michigan stays where they're at, and then you could potentially see them in the national championship as well, which would also be insane, right?
Insane. But that would assume that Ohio beats Georgia. But we've said in previous episodes, John, in terms of matchups with Georgia, I in a weird way, Georgia is a more physical team than anyone else in the country. I mean, you look at Michigan's probably the second most physical, but Georgia is just different. Okay, they're just different. We saw it in the playoff last year.
That was their brand last year. Absolutely. Yeah. They just play bully ball. They got guys with size, and it's over.
The one thing I think that can compete with Georgia, and we've seen it in some games this year, is a team that can sling the ball around and has better athletes on the outside. And Ohio State does have that. Ohio State has the weapons on the outside, especially if they're able to get Jackson Smith and Jigba back. They have weapons, and they have Stroud. And I know they lost to Michigan, and everyone's, this is a bad week to be an Ohio State fan. I understand that. But if they find their way in and they play, Georgia, that is probably the best team in the country to match up with Georgia right now is Ohio State. If anyone's going to beat Georgia, I do think in a weird way, I know Michigan just beat Ohio State, but in a weird way, if anyone's going to directly beat Georgia and win it against Georgia, I think it would be Ohio State as a team that matches up the best against them. I think Michigan doesn't match up well just because they want to do the same thing, and Georgia's better at that than Michigan.
Right.
And TCU,
I mean, I think their odds are exponentially better than they were when they played them last year. I think they're
they are
more physically dominant. I actually think somehow the defensive line has improved, which it's crazy considering them losing Ojabo and Hutchinson. That's crazy to me. So yeah, I mean, I'm really excited no matter which way it shakes out. It's really fun to play with all these possibilities, but just really looking forward to it and excited to be a Michigan fan right now. For sure.
It's an exciting time if you're a Michigan fan. College football, and this is going to be one of the biggest years in terms of that 4 playoff team really screwing somebody over. Because the only way it doesn't screw, if TCU and USC both win and both get in, then, sorry, Ohio State, sorry, Alabama, you had chances and you don't deserve to be in. That's the conversation. But if something happens where TCU or USC loses, someone's going to get left out that probably deserves to have a chance to compete for a national title. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And what is it, 2024 that we're going to get the playoff expansion. So we still have one more year of this format as well. And I agree. I don't think it's fair. And your margin of error in college football is 0. You have to win every game to leave no doubt that you belong in the playoff bracket. So it is nuts. But yeah, super fun conversation, but we are an NFL podcast to at least some degree. So we should probably move on to this absolutely insane week we had in the league as well. But I, want to start it off, just a little update. I'm sure you didn't see that coming, Mark. Right? We got
first update. Oh my God.
Yeah. So congrats to Russ. He did score one single touchdown.
He's on track. He's on track.
Bringing his count to 8, right? So what is that? You got 5 weeks left to score 4 touchdowns in order to beat the bathroom count. Can he do it? Right? We'll see.
You saw him get yelled at by his teammate, right?
Yeah, and
unbelievable how gratifying that was to see.
Yeah, he handled it really well in the post-game presser, honestly. Where
of course he did.
Yeah, we're on the same page, and it's like, yeah, you're on the same page, but like, what are you gonna do about it? Like, yeah, we got to score more points. Yes, that's what you got paid a $200 million contract before you even played it down to football to do. So yes, I understand his frustration. But yeah, that entire situation is crazy. I mean, to lose to that Panthers team, right? And guys, I apologize. This looks even more chaotic than it usually does because we're pretty much done with bye weeks, right? So now I have to fit all these matchups. So if you see the team shrinking about halfway down the graphic, it's because I was struggling to fit everybody. I apologize.
John, you're not perfect, man. You're not perfect.
I'm not. I try to be. Yeah, and with Tyler coming on as well, we didn't even take tallies on how we did this week, but I can certify just going through it that both Mark and I did horrible, period. So I would say roughly 500 for both of us, and that might be optimistic, right?
I think you did better than I did though, John, just the first glance.
Yeah, we'll see. So let's kick it off with Lions Bills, right? I know the Lions didn't come away with this game, and they made a critical mistake that many NFL teams have made over the course of Josh Allen's reign, which is leaving him with too much time on the clock. And you thought, maybe 23 seconds isn't too much time. No, that's Josh Allen. Actually, that is too much time. So
way too much time. I said the second that they let's clear the air too, John. Do you have the tweet I sent you of the progression of that last play where I sent it to you? I shared it to you.
Yeah. Did you pull? I think you sent it to me on the Adams Football Twitter for whatever.
It might have been. Yeah.
I don't know if I'm talking to you or your dad or something half the time. I'm like,
it's me who runs it. So this is big because a lot of people were talking about this is the last play that the Lions they went for this. This is before the field goal, right? That they left the time on the clock for Josh Allen to drive down. But this is the play call on the 4th and short or the 3rd and short, and a lot of people had issues with it. I understand that number 84 comes early and stuff, but what people have to realize is the Bills brought pressure, and Jared Goff has a progression on every pass play. Quarterbacks have a like the NFL and college, high school is kind of different. You just have kind of like someone that you want to throw the ball to normally, like, hey, just get it to our best player. But in the NFL and college, these guys have a routine that they practice, and it's literally like clockwork in their head. I look here to here to here on every single pass concept. They have a built-in thing. That's why quarterbacks seem like they're able to scan the field so fast. It's because they know where to look, right? Pre-snap, this guy number 4, Chark, was pressed. Okay, he was pressed with number 30 pressing him. He's thinking right off before the ball's even snapped. If this safety number 21 comes down, I'm taking my shot.
Right,
because this is a game-winning touchdown.
He's got him beat over top here too,
and he beats him off the release. Right, I know you can't see him on this. This is just like the not actual film of it, but he beats him off the press pretty good, stacks him vertically, and if Goff just airs this thing out and throws it towards the pylon, he runs underneath this, and we're not even talking about a hard catch. Like if he throws a good ball, this is a running catching touchdown untouched.
Right. And that's what you said, Mark. Is correct read, bad ball. Right, it's not
correct read, bad ball.
Yeah, so that is what that is, and it stinks. And I know this was hotly debated, but I do also have to say I was really impressed. I mean, this is the Lions against the Buffalo Bills here, and this game almost went into OT. So I got to take that away as a win to some degree, and I hope that they absolutely pummel the Jags this coming week. Right?
It's totally another step in the right direction for Detroit. I mean, it really did have the feel like the crowd was awesome. I mean, you could just tell like it had a different feel, right? And everyone knew we were playing one of the better teams in the league, and we were competing, and in many ways could have won that game. I had some issues with some of the coaching decisions again in this game. I feel like
there were definitely a few that were frustrating. And look, you just have to hope Campbell figures that clock management thing out, right? And I look, they weren't as egregious as they were earlier in the season too. But like this team is too talented to lose on stupid coaching mistakes like that at this
I
point.
mean, if we're being perfectly honest, John, like, as we've seen more and more of what this Lions team is, um, there's absolutely no reason that this isn't an 8 or 9 win team. And if you start your season 1-6 like they did, I'm not blaming the players. For a lot of it, in the beginning, we're like, we stink, our team's not good. That isn't the case. We have young guys, we have some inexperience, but we are a good football team roster wise. Absolutely no doubt
You
about
can
it.
draw plenty of parallels to where the Lions should be at and where the Jets currently are. Right?
Currently are, for
It's
sure.
the rebuild started at the exact same year. And
John, you could argue that if we traded coaches, which we should have probably hired Salah in the first place, we would be where the New York Jets are this year, if not better. I think the Lions almost have a better overall roster than New York does.
yeah.
And it's just, but that's the argument, and that's a what if. But in all honesty, the coach is the one thing, and it feels weird because normally it's not the coach, it's the whole organization is shitty. But the Lions feel like they're getting held back by one guy, and that one guy is Dan Campbell. And there's just, as a head coach in the league, there is just no room for the mistakes he's made. I know I've been hard on the guy. I know there's a lot of people that support him, but there just isn't room for that. Like that is your job as a head coach. He's not doing that aspect of his job, and it's cost them a lot of games. And this is easily a playoff football team if he just does an okay job at that. You know what I mean?
No, I don't disagree with you at all, Mark. I still think he deserves year 3. Like I genuinely do, because of where this team's at and where they could potentially be next year. But that stuff has to get cleaned up. It really does. It's literally critical to the Lions being a playoff team that he figures out how to manage the clock properly and make good decisions there. So yeah, anyways, enough harping on that game. Cowboys Giants was a really fun game to watch. I thought both teams actually competed pretty well, but the Cowboys are just the better team. And, I'm afraid that I'm going to get bit in the ass for all of the shit that I talked preseason because, this is a Cowboys team that probably can win some NFC playoff games depending on who they're matched up against. So they're looking damn good. Their defense looks great. Their offense is definitely humming. I don't know if you have any other commentary about that.
I kind of hinted at it last week, but I have a feeling, we talked about if Dallas wins this game, they could win their, division and be better than the Eagles and come out of that. The Eagles have had their little bumps here, and I know they've only dropped one game, but Dallas looks really good, and some could argue they look better than Philly as of recent. And that's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on because those two could very well meet in the playoffs. And I like what I've seen out of Dallas more than Philly in recent weeks. And I feel like Dallas just has more of a playoff type of setup for what they do offensively and defensively that can cause Philly issues, right? I mean, you just saw Gardner Johnson went down and Jalen Hurts is still a young quarterback. And there's definitely some things that could pop up for Philly that could cause issues. And I just feel like Dallas is more ready to handle adversity in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's as simple as the fact is they're an older, more mature team that is a little bit more used to winning those big games, I think, right? And I think there's a lot of benefit to having a young, talented team, right? I mean, from a cap hit perspective, from a chemistry perspective, but at the end of the day, like there's guys that know how to win and there's guys that are good athletes. And, there's definitely a difference that gets made there, right? Like Peyton Manning, when he played for Denver, like that dude's neck didn't function properly and he still won a Super Bowl. You know what I mean? So their experience does pay, especially in the second half of the season, right? And and I think that's where the Cowboys might, be able to turn up here. We'll see what happens. And look, Philly's a young team with the whole world ahead of them. Brand new coach, whole roster is pretty fresh. I'm sure they're going to crush it for years to come here. But you're right. I think it's pretty close margin. Vikings Patriots. I'm sorry, the turkey put me to sleep in the third quarter for this one.
Dude, you missed a really good game.
I did. I was like, oh, it's close. It's defensive. It's like, and then like I wake up. I'm like, oh, Minnesota won that one. So Mark, take it away.
I'll give you the brief understanding is Mac Jones and Kirk Cousins both actually showed up in a primetime game.
Crazy.
Kirk especially, and actually after the game, their head coach gave a shout out to Kirk and said, last time I checked, this game was played at prime time, and our quarterback Kirk Cousins showed what he's capable of, and actually acknowledged the the meme and the media talking about it. It's so funny when you see coaches like
that's
actually
awesome.
it's so funny because it's like they actually hear the stuff that schmucks like you and I are talking about. It's so
They do.
funny. And you always wonder, do you think they actually hear? Does Russell Wilson hear about how many toilets in his house versus touchdowns he's thrown?
I'm
Probably
almost
does.
fully convinced that at
Yeah,
least
probably
somebody
does. It's
has
so
told him
funny.
about that. Yeah.
But yeah,
I
the
mean, he
Vikings
uses
showed
Twitter. He
up.
probably sees it himself.
Dude, for sure. And he's weird about it. Like he's obsessed with himself. So yeah, he for sure sees it. But the Vikings played well, John. A huge bounce back game for them. And Justin Jefferson is, if not already, with the Bills game, is proving why he's receiver one in the league. And
He's
he
so
made
good.
so many contested catches in big moments, and they just held on right for this win. And it was a big one for them to improve to 9-2 and to be where they're at. And the Patriots, they're a very good football team that is. I'm not going to cross them out yet either, right? I mean, still young. What Belichick is doing with a roster that isn't fantastic, right? I mean, it's
crazy.
Unbelievable.
It's actually crazy.
It's unbelievable.
Like, the fact that he is consistently so resourceful with the guys he has year over year over year. It's a true testament to how incredible the coach
His
is.
formula of winning is good with just about anybody, right? I mean, you just if the team buys into it, and these young kids that he brings in and develops, if they just buy into what he's preaching, they're going to compete every week. And on any given week, they can either blow somebody out because they're just better prepared, or they can struggle in a game like this. But they're sure as hell not going to just get ran out of the field. You know what I mean? Like they're going to compete.
They're too well coached of a team.
Speaking of competing and not competing, how about the Denver Broncos, which we've already hinted at? This is kind of just like the highlight of what it's been as a Denver Broncos fan.
I think this was the most embarrassing loss.
Experience.
I think this was the most embarrassing loss they've had so far, for sure.
It's bad. I mean, the Seattle one, I think just because of the comeback story of how that game was handled, and I mean that set the tone.
Seattle ended up being a good team,
right?
Well, the Panthers are like the rest of the season couldn't matter less to them, and they didn't just beat the Broncos. Like it was a pretty dominant win, and it's just crazy to me.
they're just bad. I mean, I don't even want to talk about the Broncos more than I have to, or that game, because it was so bad.
Look, we spent enough time. We posted a TikTok about it. We got the bathroom count. They lost. Like,
okay, check. Done with the Broncos. Move forward.
Browns Bucks. That was crazy. Honestly, it's almost like Tom Brady returned to his mid-divorce form for this game. Same. And look, again, their offensive line's banged up. Most of their offense is banged up, but same thing of just frustrated, can't get anything moving. There was a skunk in the stands of the game for the Browns, which is perfectly
that's just kind of a metaphor for Ohio in general.
100%. Absolutely. So
not a good weekend to be from Ohio or to support any Ohio sports teams, but the Browns won. And you get Deshaun Watson back this week.
Oh, so exciting. I hope he stinks. What's interesting is
so curious to watch that game.
The lawyer that represented the women bought a suite for this game and is hosting 10 or 11 of the women that accused for this Browns Texans game.
See, why would that just blows my mind.
And that is
that not a weird gesture to do? And then why would those women want to go?
That's the thing. My first thought was oh, that's cool and kind of a cool insult. And then my second was why would you show up to that in the first place? They were invited. I don't know if they're gonna come, but yeah, that was a pretty interesting.
That is such a weird dynamic. Are they trying to is that like a humble brag, almost like a cocky move, like a power move by his lawyer and Deshaun Watson, or is that we feel bad, we're trying to make amends type of
I definitely think it was a cocky contested.
It's so weird. Move. Either way, that's so weird to me. That's a really weird thing.
Very bizarre.
Yeah.
But anyways, so moving on to Ravens. I mean, the Ravens are literally they play like they're the Lions, but are just a better team, like a step up. Where
The
it's like
Lamar thing that we've been saying the last few weeks, that Joe Sengros came on our show and said his call. Remember at the time he was like an MVP candidate. Okay,
right.
He was like, the Ravens were looking really good. He was looking like, let's pay this guy, no doubt about it. He has not looked good. I mean, he's not looked good since then. And
all
the
four of their losses, I'm like, how did you
they're bad,
manage to
man.
lose
They're
this
bad
game?
losses. And obviously, I mean, I know you saw his responding to fans after the game, just not, you can't do that. And like, if you're as big as Lamar Jackson, I mean, you cannot drop to that level. I mean, if you're going to talk
Dude,
back to a fan,
he does that
fine.
on a regular basis. I hope like his entire Twitter is unhinged, and like I think that's like something that slips under the radar for whatever reason. It's hilarious, the shit that he sends.
That's bad. Yeah, I mean, you can't do that and expect it not to get blown up. I mean, you have to understand who you are and what you represent. I don't
Especially
understand
just
what's so hard
responding
about
to some random fan. Like,
dude, some of these guys, like, what, like, I mean, you have agents and people that are like supposed to like advise you on like how to, like, this is why you pay people a fraction of the money you make to take care of your social media and your, how you handle yourself off the field, because this kind of stuff will affect contract negotiation. It will affect the team.
On that note, though, who is representing Lamar for his contract negotiations? Himself. He doesn't have an agent. So there you go.
But he's got to have someone advising him. He's got to have like a media consultant. He's got to have somebody, that's helping him.
I'm sure, but maybe not. Maybe he's just got Bird app on his phone and he just says what he thinks. Like, that's what I see. Dolphins, Texans. Look, I just got to say this. Give young quarterbacks freaking time to develop, right? We're seeing it with Fields. We saw it with Allen. I've said this a couple times on the podcast. Tua looks so freaking good. And I get it. Yes, he has an offensive line. Yes, he has great receivers that he's throwing to. You can make that discussion about any competitive quarterback in the league, though. What he has, honestly, is a coach and an organization that believes in him to do his job. And that's exactly what he's doing. And the media craze around hating on this dude the past 2 years looks so stupid in hindsight now. And I guess like that's all I got to say about that is like, yes, I get that, he's getting compared to Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence and all those other guys in that class. But, Dolphins are no joke right now. So,
yeah,
that's all I got to say.
They're definitely not a team to mess with. And, even Patrick Mahomes, John, like he had a year where he kind of got to just kind of take everything in and learn and wasn't thrown in any sort of pressure situation until he felt ready. And I think that just, I mean, there's something to that, right? Like not getting thrown into the fire. I mean, some guys thrive when you throw them into the fire and they'll come out and put the fire out, but some guys burn, man. Some guys burn it and they never are what they are supposed to be because it hurts their confidence. And you heard Conklin talk about how important it is to be confident. Imagine if they just threw Tyler Conklin in day one of Minnesota and just had him start over.
Cameras on him and telling him that he's
I don't know, maybe, but some guys are, some guys aren't. And if you allow guys to develop and learn from people and, get the coaching they need, this is what happens. Tua looks like a MVP candidate. I can't imagine anyone else winning Coach of the Year besides McDaniel. I mean, this is an awesome story.
There was a report that Tua said in the offseason that he like looked himself in the mirror. Is like, do I suck? Like, is everything everybody's saying about me true? Or like, do I got to turn this shit on next year and make shit happen? And that's exactly what he did, in my opinion. So
he's handled that. He's handled that very, very well.
They're all humans at the end of the day, man.
The coach change is big, right, John? I mean, I think you give to his credit for sure, but the coaching change is ginormous. He's a quarterback-friendly coach. He's definitely made this so much easier for Tua. His play calling is unbelievably good. And then you add Tyreek Hill, right? And then you counter that with Jalen Waddle. I mean, he's put in we would be talking very, very negatively about Tua if he weren't performing. Let's be honest. I mean, he's a good coach, good weapons, a good team around him. So the standard is high for him.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like you can make that argument about anywhere in the NFL because everybody's a freak athlete. Everybody has God-given talent. Coaching and scheme fit and the personnel around you and how much they believe in you. I mean, take a guy like Drew Brees, right? He did not work out with his first team. And then he went to a different team and played with a coach that understood his limitations, understood what could happen, understood he was very accurate. And then they went on a dominant run for over a decade together, right? And that's kind of how I see it. Obviously, Tua didn't change teams. He had the new organization and the new coach come to him. But it's kind of that same situation where it's like, no, we understand where your weaknesses are. Let's lean in on your strengths. Make sure you have a good supporting cast.
It's a good comparison, and it absolutely is 100% right. Your situation. I mean, again, you put it, an elephant in the ocean and ask them to, swim, right? Like just tread water like every other ocean animal. Like it's not going to be able to do that, right? Like there's certain times where you're in the right situation, you're the dominant thing. And Tua in Miami with this coach, with these receivers, he's a dominant thing. That's a dominant force, Previous years it wasn't the right fit, So it just goes to show that sometimes you do have the right guy or the right piece and you just don't have the right surrounding pieces. And I think that that's one of the hardest things in the NFL to measure and figure out for owners and GMs and coaches is, do we have the right guys or am I the wrong coach, or is this the wrong receiver for him, or are we doing the wrong play calls? Like there's a lot to figure out, but when stuff clicks like Miami's clicking, it's hard to stop.
Definitely.
It is. It's hard to stop.
And that's the beautiful part about the parity of the NFL. Everybody's a freak. Everybody's a God-given, incredible athlete. And it's just how all of these things mesh and come together. Speaking of things meshing and coming together, Jets, again, we talked about it with Tyler. Like, they look so good. And
so good.
I get they beat up on like a struggling Bears team missing their starting quarterback, but like just the level of, like you said when you were talking to him, the level of confidence and swagger with the entire way that they play, like that team, if they make the playoffs, which I think they're going to, like they might not be a team you want to see, play great defense. If their offense is clicking like it did against the Bears, like they're going to be trouble. So
John, there's a clip I sent you too, if you want to pull it up of them, of Tyler and them celebrating. It was in the rain. It just kind of shows what we're talking about, like with this Jets team and how it seems like they're just playing loose and having fun. It's visible. Like you can see it in how they're handling things. So if he blows this up, right, you can see like they're dancing, they're in the rain. Like, I mean, look at Tyler, like number 83, just running around, like, it just seems like the whole team has this culture of like, they're enjoying it, man. And they care. Look at the sideline. Look at the sideline hyping. Like it just, and if you're
like they're going nuts, man.
They're going nuts at just a 15-yard catch. And these are his tight ends that in the same room as him and position wise supporting him. And it's just so cool to see a team like that that's not used to that standard of winning and for a long time. And and they were playing with that was the first time that quarterbacks had a moment like that and he looked really good. Mike White looked really good for them. It sucks.
Not the first time. You don't remember the legend of Mike White last year?
Well, I understand that, but I'm saying like this year
comes in, puts what 4 or 5 touchdowns up on the Bengals.
Like, no, I get that he's he's been around, he's made some stuff happen, but like this year and on this team with
first opportunity,
with everything that was happening with Zach Wilson, is like if they figure it out at quarterback, this is a legitimate threat to not only be a playoff team, but they could make a run. And
totally.
We saw like it was so awesome to see, so awesome to have him on after a big win. And there's something special happening with the New York Jets, and it's very cool to see teams that have struggled for a long time all of a sudden become something that it means something to these people in New York. It means something to that fan base, to those players, all young, hungry guys trying to prove themselves, like Tyler said. And I'm excited to continue to see what they do, not only this year, but in the near future as well.
Definitely. I mean, look, it's going to be a stable ship. I think they got general manager and head coach figured out, and that's all you need to have a pretty good run for several years in a row. Competitive division, yes, but I think they'll be able to figure it out, put it together. Bengals Titans. Look, I think I said this when we were discussing this, right? Like Bengals felt like they should be a 7-4 team. So that's literally the only reasoning I gave. It's like, the Bengals should be winning a little bit more, right? And sure enough, they were able to pull that one out. And on top of that, they're getting Chase and Mixon back next week, I believe. So
listen, John, last year, I'm having deja vu. Last year around this time, Cincinnati did the exact same thing. They rattled off a bunch of wins. They beat Kansas City, who they played this week. It just seems like I'm having deja vu of what happened last year. I mean, they beat that Kansas City team. And all of a sudden, everything kind of changed, right? They got a big win against Tennessee. If they go in and beat Kansas City, I swear to God, it's like, dude, is Cincinnati going to do this again? Where they all of a sudden, no one was taking them in the AFC last year, and all of a sudden they found their way in the Super Bowl. So
And all the things that we were saying even at the
Burrow.
beginning of the season, we were like, man, they look horrible. And no, they figured it out. So, and Burrow is not taking the second half of the season is not taking nearly as many sacks as he was first half, which is huge for him. So shout out to Joe Burrow's, like ACLs and probably his rib cage and
his longevity.
Yeah, it's just like his overall physical health. I'm really stoked for that. Commanders Falcons. Look, Commanders are 7-5 now. I cannot believe I'm saying that. I mean,
we owe them an apology, John, or is it another week to rescind our apology?
I mean, I will never apologize because look, for as good as this team is playing, they're still the most garbage. As long as Dan Snyder is their owner, they are a garbage franchise. And
I mean, we were so ready to apologize last week, and then you forced us to rescind it, and I don't even regret it. But they won again this week, and I'm waiting. What do they have to do for you to say, you know what, Washington Commanders, I'm sorry that we hated on you so hard, and we were wrong.
How about you don't do a statue to honor a former player of yours, and it wasn't actually a statue at all. It was just like a uniform in a wire mannequin. Did you see this entire thing?
I heard about this.
It is like, and as long as you're doing stuff like that, it's very hard for me to like say anything other than, wow, you're a garbage franchise.
So, hey, good win, but
great win.
We rescind our former apology that we almost did this week again, but we're not. That's gonna be our new thing with Washington. We'll apologize and then actually, we don't mean
we'll come up with it. Well, look, I was gonna give the apology and then they gave me another reason to hate them. And I don't hate Taylor Heineke. That dude's a dog. And I've been saying that since last year, that I don't even know why they're trying to get another quarterback right now. Taylor Heineke might be their guy. And I'm super excited for his underdog story and all that, but I will continue to hate on the Commanders. Chargers just barely squeaked by with one.
Hey, but how about the stones on that guy to go for 2 to end the game?
Hey, Mr. Analytics, that's where it works out, right? And
there's times, man. That's like as a play caller, as a coach, that's one of the hardest decisions, man, because you're putting it all on.
You're literally saying, if we get this, we win, and if we don't, then everybody hates me.
And he's done this before, and it's cost that Chargers team. We saw it last year, but there almost feels like a little bit of desperation for the Chargers to start reeling off wins here, because I think they know what they're capable of if they do start winning. And This was a must win, and they got it done. It didn't look pretty the whole time, but they got it done. And Kyler Murray, and there's some trouble in paradise there. He started to throw blame on the scheme. He's starting to,
he was throwing some shade at Cliff. Yeah.
Call of Duty has come out and he's looked pretty bad. I think he's up late instead of watching film. He's playing with Cliff, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. He's definitely it is hilarious because this team was 3-1, I think, and then Call of Duty dropped and they've won one game since then. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they're 2-2. I don't know. The point is that they started losing a lot.
Since that game came out, they have been worse. And it's just the funniest ongoing thing that he, for sure, we talk about, do players hear about the stupid shit we talk about? He definitely hears about that. Kyler Murray is fully aware of.
I need to take Arizona's record the past 3 years and show dot plots, like games where Call of Duty was out and games before Call of Duty was out, and see what the record is. So, speaking of teams that, I don't know, can't play defense, that Seahawks Raiders game, I was like, is anybody going to get a stop this entire game? It was wild.
Not too often you see that in the NFL. It's more of like a college kind of game, but not too often you see that. Josh Jacobs had an unbelievable game. The Raiders,
300 yards, something like that.
We've been saying this all year, though. I mean, the Raiders are a good football team that just has had some unfortunate losses. They have guys, they have dudes on that team that can make plays. They went into Seattle, and like you said, Seattle's no gimme. They're not what we expected them to be. Seattle's a legitimate team, and this is a big win, just considering everything that's been happening, the frustration that's been building up in Vegas.
Totally.
They look good. It's back-to-back wins for them. The Raiders are not a bad football team. I refuse to say that they're a bad football team.
What's really interesting too is Jacobs' fifth-year option was declined, correct? So
yeah.
I'm curious what's going to happen there because, man, you have a performance like that, your stock goes way up for any potential teams that are, looking to pick up a running back in the offseason here. So definitely interesting. Chiefs, Rams, there's not a whole lot to talk about because they're not even playing the Rams. They're playing like
They're playing like
the
the JV Rams.
yeah, like the practice squad Rams for sure. Like
Literally.
everybody's dead. That Allen Robinson's out for the rest of the season. Cooper Kupp's probably out for the rest of the season. I don't know if Stafford's probably going to sit just for his own sake because the dude's been banged up the entire year. Their offensive line stinks, and Aaron Donald apparently is going to be out next week. Their defense is falling apart, and Jalen Ramsey's getting bullied, which is hilarious. So Jalen Ramsey, shout out Jalen Ramsey.
He sucks. Shout out Ramsey. Did you see the LeBron his stupid show that he does like during the haircut thing or whatever where they all sit around and they talk and they bring on like celebrity athletes and stuff?
Oh,
and
yeah,
Jalen Ramsey came on and they were debating whether Jalen Ramsey could guard LeBron or not in football. I'm like, of course he could. First of all, LeBron thinks like LeBron. I'm a LeBron hater for anyone out there, and we don't talk a ton of basketball, but this dude and his ability to think that no matter what is happening in the world, it has something to do with him. I mean, every single year, Ohio State, Michigan, he acts like he's like, I'm like, dude, you didn't go to Ohio State. You don't even play football. You don't know anything you're talking about.
You're from Ohio. Like
that's it. Like everybody else, he acts like everything is about him. And it's just like, yeah, I could probably mess with Jalen Ramsey. Like, dude, no, you couldn't. You can't even stay healthy in the NBA.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, how are the Lakers doing this year?
Terrible. Like,
yeah.
So that just was hilarious to me. Jalen Ramsey was, and then they were like, well, I think LeBron's faster. And he goes, now you're really disrespecting me.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like,
no, and this, and look, I mean, Jalen's still a stud cornerback and 100%. I mean, I think just about any starting cornerback in the league could cover LeBron on a route.
Yeah, like LeBron doesn't even know what he's doing.
Exactly.
He's a freak athlete that does not always translate. You're a freak
athlete, and you have a lot of size, but there's a skill set that goes alongside that.
Yeah.
So fun fact about this game: the Saints have been shut out 4 times in franchise history. The team was 49ers, 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 49ers.
Yeah, that's not good. That's
not good. So not good. I've been saying this all year, though. This offense cannot figure it out. Like, and as long as Andy Dalton is the starting quarterback, the offense will continue to not figure it out. Period. So
John,
I hope.
I mean, are you more let down by the Saints or the Lions this year?
Oh, the Saints, easily, because I had expectations for the Saints, and if the Lions got 6 wins, I was a pig in shit, So to me, like all the receipts are there, right? It's the beautiful part about a podcast. You will hear me in August saying that this Saints team is a Super Bowl contender. And sans quarterback, I actually think I might still believe that. And I don't know, man. I mean, Dennis Allen, I'm not totally out on him yet, just because he's got some huge shoes to fill. But I thought this was going to be a more stable ship because he was the defensive coordinator and the Saints had a rock solid defense, and their offensive coordinator has been with them for 9 years. So I did not think that the fall off was going to be anything like this. So yeah, honestly, I think their best route is to trade a bunch of draft capital to try to move up into one of those top picks and draft a quarterback. I think you're at that point now where you got to try to make something like that happen, or take a swing on, Lamar if the Ravens aren't willing to sign him. I don't know.
I just asked this because I genuinely don't know where Michael Thomas is and what his deal is.
As a Saints fan, I have been talking shit about Michael Thomas for the past 3 years. He has a dislocated toe and is out for the rest of the season. He was healthy for the first 2 games and has been battling injury ever since then. So Michael Thomas has played a total of 4 games in the past 3 seasons, Mark.
And that's since he signed his mega contract, right?
Yes. Yep. That are still locked in for another year. And I don't even care. I'm saying, like, just cut him. Like, seriously, I'm at a point now. I'm so frustrated with it. Like,
it's unbelievable. Like
Brian Robinson got shot and came back to the league faster than Michael Thomas has been able to recover from turf toe. Like, dude, I don't get it.
Shot and was back in 4 weeks.
Yeah,
you got a turf toe and you've missed. Hey, you know what though? Those turf toes don't mess around.
They don't. They're not comfortable. But if you're
But it's
if
not
you're
a
gonna,
bullet to your abdomen. You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. And also just to backtrack one game, really excited about where the Rams are record wise for the Lions. I
Dude,
mean, right,
they're projected what, the third pick now?
third pick
Or,
right now.
yeah,
And they might lose the rest of the season, so that's beautiful, right?
that's
First,
awesome.
I mean, I trust Holmes to make good draft picks. Period. So really excited
Yeah,
about that.
the Packers Green Bay game, or I'm sorry, the Green Bay Philly game. We already kind of
The
brushed up a
Packers
little
are
bit.
playing themselves a little bit as of late, so
Yeah,
I get it.
true. With Aaron Rodgers going down, this
Um,
this season has gone about as bad as it can for Green Bay.
I feel so bad for Rodgers because he is battling, it seems like, some pretty rough injuries. I do have to say, like, just drawing parallels, like Jordan Love stepping up to the plate there, he looked like an entirely different quarterback for that game versus the games he started in last year.
And why
I
do we think
mean,
that is, John? More time to sit and develop and learn, right? Just like you said.
exactly. Well, because that's exactly what it was too. Is we already know, like, he's a good athlete. The way he made his reads, and I'm not a quarterback and know nothing about the way quarterbacks are supposed to navigate making reads, but I just thought he was so much more confident in seeing his options and then very accurately, very quickly delivering the ball to where it needed to go that entire game. Right? The offense didn't skip a beat with him coming in, and it was still a very competitive game. So yeah, that was a crazy game to watch. I mean, that first quarter, even I was like, what is going on right now? The Eagles are about to win this game 80-0 if it keeps going like this. But no, they hung in there.
Quick fact: the Eagles rushed for more yards in that game than I think any team since 1940. I believe was Jalen Hurts had over 170. Miles Sanders had over 100. I think they rushed for like 300. I don't know I don't know what the final number was. It was like in the
I
upper
can
higher
probably look it up.
300s. It was like 330 something. Maybe even higher than that. But
Yeah, they had 360 rushing yards. So pretty crazy.
I think it tied like since like 1940 for a single team in a single game.
That's
But
nuts.
you run
And
the ball
then
like that and you still have a close game. I mean, holy, like, and there's some problems on that defense for Philly. I'd be a little bit worried.
And then finally, Steelers Colts, Monday Night Football. And look, Jeff Saturday, being a new coach, he learned a valuable lesson in clock management for that.
We learned one thing, John. He's not Jeff Monday.
That's definitely not Jeff. He might be Jeff Sunday.
He might be Jeff Sunday, but he's for damn sure not Jeff Monday.
For sure. Yeah, they had an opportunity to win that game, and very poor clock management, I would say, is one of the primary reasons why they did it. So that is that. We will ship that one out and bring in next week's games to add our picks in. Are you ready, Mark?
I'm ready, man. Every week is bigger and bigger, guys. Like, it just everything, like all these games mean more and more. This week has some interesting matchups. I'm excited to dig into this.
So Bills Pats divisional game. You know, Pats have usually been able to squeeze one out against the Bills. That like snow rain game that happened last year, where like there was like one pass there on the entire game,
ran the ball
was
like
pretty
38 straight times.
Yes, nuts. And that's perfectly on brand for him. But I'm gonna go Bills here. Look, they keep saying they're a Super Bowl team this year, and there's a lot of teams that are kind of like 7-8 wins, so they got to start making some separation if they really want to make a bid for winning the AFC and crushing everybody along the way. So I'm going to go Bills here.
Yeah, I think the win against Detroit in a weird way for them was, a kind of a regain your identity type of game.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people thought it would just be a cakewalk for them. I don't think the Bills thought that at all. I think they came in and knew Detroit was a hungry team fighting, and that was a big win. I think that they continue and get a little win streak going.
For sure. Steelers at Falcons. I'm gonna go. Honestly, Kenny Pickett's been playing pretty good the past 3 starts. No,
he has been
really bad with the turnovers the first couple of games. Cleaned those up. Same thing. Like, I know he's a rookie, but he's playing pretty well. I'm gonna go Steelers here.
Yeah, I'm also gonna go Steelers. They really just the defense is what yes, Pickett's been playing better, but just the defense and going against kind of that Falcons offense that will turn the ball over and seems to struggle when they play sound defenses, which is exactly what a Tomlin coach defense is.
Right. Broncos, Ravens. I'm going to go Ravens.
two teams that have just been really, really bad as of late. Broncos all year, but Ravens really bad as of late. Two quarterbacks that have been struggling. Kind of an intriguing game to see if either of them kind of step up their game. I'm actually going to go Denver here, John. I know every week.
You're totally doing it to troll me at this point, right?
No. I just am like,
no. I specifically clipped me bullying you for taking them last week and made you put that out on our social media just to hopefully maybe teach you a lesson that like you do this to yourself over and over again. And here you are doing it to yourself once again.
Am I insane?
I can't help you. You are. That's literally the definition of insanity.
I don't know,
yeah.
but like I'm gonna ride with the Denver Broncos into war, man, and I'm just probably gonna get an arrow through my heart like within the first 3 seconds.
Oh, so you like to live dangerously?
I guess. I mean,
you gonna go get a danger witch?
I might.
If the Broncos win this game, I'll eat a danger witch on the next stream. There's a Subway across the street. Yeah, I'll just be munching on it.
Go get yourself a danger witch. Buy into it.
Yeah. Yep. Oh, spicy. All right. Packers Bears, gonna go Packers. Especially Roger said he's gonna play this week. I don't know if it's actually gonna be the case. I think Jordan Love is going to have something to prove if he is the starter here. So, yeah, I'm going to go Packers in either scenario.
I'm also going to go Packers. I don't know about Justin Fields or what the deal is there, but the Packers, with or without Aaron Rodgers, do own the city of Chicago and the Bears. That's a known thing.
That is a known thing. Jags at Lions. Look, home game, coming off of that close win. I'm going to go Lions here. And look, it might be a closer game than anyone's anticipating. The Lions are the favorite.
It'll be a close game for sure. It'll be a close game. I'm going to pick the Jags. I think that they're finding themselves. They just had a big win this week. Trevor Lawrence looked really, really good. And I just can't convince myself to pick the Lions every week. I'm sorry. Could they win? Absolutely. This is a game that I think, like, in terms of our bet, they kind of have to win.
Well, hey, we got the Panthers, the Bears, and Green
Panthers
Bay.
in Carolina. I would not toss up that's a pretty good.
I'm not saying that we're sure going to win it. I'm just saying that I'd say we have decent.
They're winnable. There are winnable games left, but this is a big one for them in terms of that. Definitely.
Browns at Texans, and I'm going to go Texans.
This is the game of the week. This is the game of the week because of the Deshaun Watson return and that he's playing his former team and everything. I'm going to go Texans as well. I can't possibly think that karma is going to support him coming back and beating his former team, right? Like, I know the Browns are the better team. Karma's real, man. Football karma is the realest thing ever because it's like every week there's a chance for karma to show you the truth. And I mean, Texans are due, man. They're due, and there's not a better way to get a big win in a much needed time than against Deshaun Watson and with everything that happened.
Definitely. I just hope everything goes the wrong way for them. Jets at Vikings. Tyler coming on the show. This team's just playing good, exciting football. I know that they're going to Minnesota, but I'm going to go Jets here.
I'm going to go Jets as well. Two back-to-back games with Watson going back to Houston. We got Conklin going back to Minnesota, right? Kind of get that, old team, old friends kind of. It's going to be a weird thing. That's just kind of cool that those games are back-to-back, that we see it like that. But
yeah, and I think that Cousins had to sacrifice his 1:00 version of himself in order to win that primetime game on Thanksgiving.
You think? So you think now he's no longer.
We're going to see primetime Kirk Cousins in this one because we saw the new nightmare on Thursday.
Oh, okay. So you think that's places?
Yes, exactly.
I just think. Listen, yes, it's a 1:00 game. The new nightmare Kirk Cousins is going to be out. I think he's going to play well, but this Jets defense is no joke. And you heard Conklin say it. This team is playing with confidence. Mike White looks good. I'm going to go with the Jets.
If anybody's going to lock down Jefferson, it's going to be Sauce. So. Commanders at Giants. This is an incredibly important game for both of these teams. Absolutely critical being a divisional game.
Huge playoff implications.
Huge playoff implications. I'm going to go Giants here, but as long as Dan Snyder doesn't do something stupid over the next week, I will officially issue my apology to the Commanders if they win.
Yeah, I'll believe that when I see it. I'm actually going to pick Washington here.
Nice.
Defensively, man, I just think that, both these defenses are good. I just think Washington's is better. And, I think what they're able to do against Daniel Jones is what's going to separate the two teams. I think Washington comes out on top in a defensive battle.
Sure. Titans at Eagles. I'm going to go Eagles. First team to hit 10 wins. Titans are going to play a good game against them, but I'm still very much on the Eagles hype train. I think they're legit.
Yeah, I'm going to go Titans. Get a bounce back win. Kind of a need to stay atop, their division and trying to get back in the playoffs and stuff. But the Eagles are just they're just kind of asking to get beat again, man. I don't know. They're kind of flirting with it. They've looked really good at certain things. They've looked really bad at certain things. I just think that, the way that the Packers move the ball, Derrick Henry is going to be able to do that. And that kind of,
hey, if you say that enough weeks in a row, you will be right eventually. Seahawks, Rams. I'm going to go Hawks here just because the Rams are literally just a walking corpse, basically. Even Sean McVay is injured. So,
dude, can we talk about that for a second? Just do you think that's why he had such a bad game? He called that game horribly, even with the missed pieces. He did not call a good game. Was he concussed? Is he in the protocol?
I don't know. I'm sure if he was, I don't think he would have said anything.
How does that work? Do they let you coach if you're concussed, or?
I don't think he has the same protocols as a player does. So yeah, I think you can squeak by with it.
You mean to tell me that dude could be he could get blackout, punched in the face, pop up, be fully concussed, and then go be the head coach of a football game?
I mean,
can't imagine that would go well.
I can't imagine it would. I'm just saying that I don't think that they're screening coaches' health on the sideline the same way they're doing players.
I just wanted to check. Maybe I want to see if you knew, because that's kind of new territory for the NFL.
Well, look,
they might want to look into coaches getting hit, because
we can pilot this. Next season, I can come to the Adams game and just beat you up a little bit, and then you go coach the game, and we'll see how it affects your performance. So
I'm not even gonna respond to that. I mean,
I could beat you, John. Yeah.
No, if I'm letting you beat me, I mean, sure. Ask your finger what happens when you mess with me.
Yeah. Yeah, your pocket did that. You didn't do that.
Exactly, dude. Because I was quick in the wind and you couldn't catch me.
For sure. Dolphins at 49ers. This is probably my favorite matchup of the week.
Dude, there's so many former,
because you're getting the coaching tree, the same coaching tree here.
Did they the NFL almost plan this is the week of the revenge? I mean,
a lot of divisional matchups, a lot of revenge games. Yeah, it's gonna be sweet. I am so excited for this game. Definitely my favorite one of the week. I think this is tough. I'm gonna take 49ers though, because they've just been rock solid for the past 4 weeks, and assuming same coaching tree, he might have his old OC figured out a little bit too. So
I'm going to go San Francisco. It's the master versus the apprentice, man. Right?
Right.
It's that's literally what this is.
I like that.
Mike McDaniel's learned everything that he knows, pretty much, or most of what he knows, from Shanahan. And I just, does Saban lose a lot to the old coaches that he used to have underneath him that go and take other jobs? No, he normally wins, right?
Right.
Shanahan's been doing it longer. This is in San Francisco. I do think Miami has a better overall team, and they've looked better throughout the year than San Francisco. But when San Fran plays their best ball and Miami plays their best ball, I think it comes down to the coaches and stuff. And I think both these teams will play well, and Shanahan will get the upper hand.
So excited for it. It's going to be sweet. Chiefs Bengals, another phenomenal matchup. I think the Chiefs are going to get the best of them here still. They look too good this season, right? Last year, I'd say they looked rocky in some areas. This season, I don't know how much I can criticize So
I mean, it's crazy to even think that the Chiefs will lose, considering they're 26-0 in November and December, the last 26 games.
that's unbelievable.
And it is, last time I checked, December this weekend. So it's hard to go against them. But I, for some reason, think that Cincinnati's going to be that first loss in November, December. It just feels like last year is,
Right.
about to happen.
Repeating
and this
itself.
is in Cincinnati. Burrows looks really good. Like you said, they're getting their guys back, and Mixon and Jamar Chase. And, the Chiefs.
No shoe in for the Chiefs by any means. So
no. So I'm going to go with Cincinnati.
nice.
Just feel like it's the time.
Chargers, Raiders. Look, if the
Another
Chargers
good
want to
game.
keep their playoff hopes alive, they better beat the Raiders this week. So I got to go Chargers here.
I'm going to go Chargers too, simply for that reason, because they're playing for more. But this could easily go either way. And
I'm excited to watch it.
It's going to be a good game. I really hope the Chargers get it done, and just because I do really want to see the Chargers in the playoffs. I think they can make a splash and definitely cause some issues for other teams. But this is a big time game for them.
Definitely. Colts at Cowboys. I think the Cowboys will make an embarrassment of this current Colts team. Like I said, I think this Cowboys team is just mature. They got a lot of vets on it, and this Colts team is getting coached by a guy who didn't know how to use his timeouts last game. So pretty easy equation there for me.
Yeah, I'm going to go Cowboys as well. I think both these teams are physical, want to run the ball. The only difference is Dallas can do more, and the Colts really can't. Like, if it's not working, they're in trouble. And think about Matt Ryan against this pass rush, right? Like, if they get in third and long, they're in trouble.
Yeah, that's a very good point that I wasn't even fully considering at the time. And then Saints Bucks. Look, I'm going to go Saints here because, believe it or not, they win this game and the Falcons lose. They're at the top of their division somehow, some way. They can be a 5-win team at the top of their division, and for that reason, I'm going to hope that the Saints can work this one out here. They usually give the Bucks a run for their money. They lost by a really close margin when they met earlier in the season, so I think we'll get it done.
So I'm gonna pick the Bucks just because I think Tom Brady's gonna do what he does in prime time when the world's watching. I know this is a weird year for them, but I think he kind of figures it out. But the realest question of this game is Mike Evans and Lattimore. Are they going to make it through the whole game without fighting and getting kicked out?
They are 100% going to throw hands. I can almost if there was.
I can't wait to see it on primetime football. I mean, the whole world's going to see it. It's going to be awesome.
There are a few player beefs that are as bad as Lattimore and Evans.
They hate each other.
They hate each other. They fight.
They might kill each other. There might be murder. There might be a knife in one of their girdles, and you just think they're adjusting themselves, and they pull out a shot and just get a quick jab in right off the press. Won't even see it happen, right?
Maybe they'll be concealed carrying just straight up.
I don't know, dude. There's gonna because they've fought enough times where it's like, are we just gonna kill each other? Or are we gonna fight every time?
Yeah, and keep in mind for those listening, this last game was a bench clearing fight. It wasn't just between Evans and Lattimore.
Dude, these teams hate each other.
It's awesome. It is
awesome. I'm waiting for TB12 to have some of his frustration in his life come out and him throw a punch.
Well, that's how the bench clearing fight started, is that him and Lattimore were in each other's faces.
For sure.
And then that just pissed Evans off. And so Evan decided to just started wailing on Lattimore.
Well, Tom Brady is the golden god, dude. You cannot. If you're Tom Brady's teammate and he's getting in a scuff with someone, and there's no rules. You do not let that dude get touched. Tom Brady is, that's the Mona Lisa, dude. You don't let anybody take pictures or touch that thing.
Yeah. So that's our predictions for the week. Super fun episode. Lots that we did cover. I think this might be our longest episode to date. I got no problems with that. Really excited to see this week because, like you said, so many playoff implications, so many in-division games, revenge games, just a lot of good stuff. It's going to be a good week of football.
A lot of good football, man. And don't forget about college championship weekend. A lot of awesome games going on throughout college. Tons of playoff implications. in both college and the NFL. This is the time of year where football really starts to heat up, in my opinion, and like all these games really start to have heavy value. And having Conklin on tonight was an awesome guest. Another thanks to him for that. Hope people are enjoying some of the kind of behind the scenes of these players' stories. And we see them every Sunday, but you don't really get to see them. You don't really get to know. I just think that knowing these players and understanding they're people, like they're just like everybody else for the most part, and kind of seeing those sides of these guys is something we want to continue to do on this show. And it was pretty cool. It was nice of him to come on and share his
Super
story
nice
with
of him to
us.
come on. Huge shout out to Tyler Conklin for sure. Thanks for coming on, dude. We will see everybody next week to probably have plenty of conversations recapping all of these crazy matchups coming up. I'm super excited for it. We will catch you guys next time. Peace.
See you guys.